On the night of April 14, 1912, the largest ship in the world moved forward across an ocean so calm it felt deceptively safe. Ice warnings had been sent, but routine prevailed. Just hours later, more than 1,500 people would not survive. Before we reconstruct, minute by minute, the final hours of the Titanic, like this video, subscribe to the channel and follow this historical analysis based on real records from the night the world changed. On the night of April 14th, Titanic maintains high speed as passengers enjoy the final hours of the day. Most are unaware of the ice warnings received along the route. For the crew, conditions seem ideal. The ship sails steadily, engines running smoothly, with no immediate sign of danger. Throughout the evening, Titanic's wireless room receives multiple ice warnings from nearby ships. The messages describe large ice fields ahead, but passenger traffic remains the priority. On the bridge, watch continues as part of normal routine. With the sea flat and wave-free, spotting ice at a distance becomes harder than usual. Shortly before 11:40 p.m., visibility remains limited despite clear skies. With no swell, ice produces no visible reflections. The lookouts stay alert, but without binoculars. On the bridge, speed is not reduced. A perfect storm of factors creates a narrow window where the iceberg appears too late for effective maneuvering. Shortly before 11:40 p.m., visibility remains limited despite clear skies. With no swell, ice produces no visible reflections. The lookouts stay alert, but without binoculars. On the bridge, speed is not reduced. A perfect storm of factors creates a narrow window where the iceberg appears too late for effective maneuvering. As the night goes on, new ice warnings arrive in Titanic's radio room. Different ships report extensive ice fields directly ahead. The information is logged, but no immediate action follows. The voyage continues within what is considered normal practice for this stretch of the North Atlantic. The sea remains unnaturally calm. Without waves, icebergs produce neither foam nor clear visual contrast. Temperatures drop sharply, and dry air distorts depth perception. Even so, the ship maintains speed, supported by confidence in vigilance and in the vessel's sheer strength. On the bridge, no significant order to reduce speed is given. The course remains largely unchanged. Logs are written as usual and the night stays quiet. The risk exists, but it is not yet treated as anything out of the ordinary for this crossing. As the clock approaches 11:40 p.m., attention remains divided between routine and watchkeeping. No alarm is sounded. Titanic moves through waters known for seasonal ice, relying on the belief that any obstacle will be seen in time. At 11:40 p.m., Titanic scrapes against the ice in a prolonged collision. There is no explosion, only a metallic shudder that runs along the hull. Inside, the impact feels like an unfamiliar vibration. Officers break routine immediately as crew members are sent below to assess damage beneath the waterline. After the impact, officers descend to inspect the affected compartments. Water enters steadily below the waterline, spilling beyond bulkheads designed to contain isolated flooding. Thomas Andrews quickly understands the scale of the structural damage. If this reconstruction is helping you understand what really happened that night, subscribe to the channel to continue this analysis based on real historical records. After cross-checking the flooded compartments, Thomas Andrews reaches a clear conclusion. The damage exceeds the ship's design limits. Water is advancing through more sections than Titanic can survive. On the bridge, the tone of decision-making changes. From this moment on, the focus shifts from control to time. With the assessment complete, the information reaches the ship's command. Time becomes the central factor. Initial orders are discreet, avoiding general alarms to prevent panic. Priority turns to preparing the lifeboats and assembling the crew. From this point forward, every decision is made knowing Titanic cannot be saved. Shortly after midnight, the crew begins preparing the lifeboats. Orders are passed quietly, without public announcements. Life vests are handed out, covers are removed. Many passengers see the process as a simple precaution. The absence of panic reinforces the belief that the situation is still under control. As lifeboats are readied, the crew tries to organize small groups of passengers. Many hesitate to board, convinced the ship is not in real danger. Lights remain on, music still plays. The atmosphere supports that illusion. The procedure moves slowly, marked more by hesitation than urgency. As time passes, the distribution of life vests becomes more direct. Movement between decks is gradually restricted to prevent congestion. Passengers arrive from different areas at different times, and the physical separation between classes influences who receives information first. Evacuation continues, but without a shared sense of urgency. The first lifeboats are lowered only partially filled. Many passengers are still reluctant to leave a ship that appears stable. On the upper decks, evacuation proceeds with relative order. Below, information arrives late and in fragments. Access and timing begin to determine who reaches the boats. Keys. As more lifeboats are launched, the ship's condition becomes impossible to ignore. The bow sinks slowly, and the list becomes physical, not theoretical. Passengers feel the tilt beneath their feet. Confidence fades. Evacuation takes on a more serious tone, still controlled but no longer casual. As the angle increases, evacuation loses the appearance of a precautionary drill. Some lifeboats are lowered at irregular intervals, while others wait for more passengers. In the radio room, operators begin transmitting continuous distress calls. On deck, rockets are prepared to signal nearby ships. As rockets light up the sky, the deck's tilt becomes unmistakable. Objects begin to slide slowly. Near the grand spaces, musicians continue playing to maintain order. The contrast between music and emergency signals underscores the moment when the situation becomes irreversible. As the list grows steeper, collective behavior shifts. Hesitation gives way to restrained urgency. Lifeboats are lowered more frequently, while distress calls continue over the wireless. Titanic no longer feels stable, and that realization spreads quickly across the ship. As water advances rapidly, essential areas fall out of operation. Lower corridors are abandoned. Internal communication becomes fragmented. The increasing angle forces improvised changes to evacuation. The ship still resists, but its structure is now operating beyond its original design limits. As the last lifeboats are launched, the lights begin to fail. Interior spaces plunge into darkness, while the deck remains exposed to wind and cold. The sound of steel under stress becomes constant. Evacuation enters its final phase, defined by urgency and the absence of alternatives. With the bow fully submerged, the hull is subjected to extreme forces. The angle approaches vertical. The deck becomes an unstable ramp. Deep, resonant sounds of steel under tension echo through the structure. The final minutes aboard are marked by the physical gravity of imminent collapse. With the bow completely underwater, Titanic's structure is pushed beyond its limits. The hull bends past what it was ever designed to endure. Staying aboard becomes impossible. In moments, a deep rupture tears through the ship. The structure gives way, and Titanic breaks apart, beginning its final descent into the Atlantic.
Hurry now! Keep climbing! Don't let go of my hand!
I'm trying.
We're almost to the top, just a little further.
Moments later, what remains of the ship vanishes beneath the surface. The ocean closes over the site. In the water, people struggle among debris. Lifeboats watch from a distance. Cold takes hold quickly. Silence returns, broken only by the sound of the sea. After Titanic disappears, lifeboats remain scattered in the darkness, waiting for help. Hours later, lights appear on the horizon. Carpathia arrives and begins rescuing survivors. At dawn, the debris field reveals the full scale of the disaster, an impact that would forever reshape maritime history.